Thanks everyone for coming to this wonderful evening with Bay Area audio legend Fred Catero, interviewed by Chris Cooper. I just wanted to make a couple of announcements. First of all, this is going to be recorded for the AES Oral History Project, so please switch your mobile phones off, and that way we won't have any unwanted interruptions. Our next presentation, entitled The Future of Music with Keith McMillan, will be the 12th of March, Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. at the TV studio at San Francisco State University. And for those who are inclined to go to Rome, the 134th convention will be held there May 4th to 7th. Thank you very much, and Chris Cooper will start out by telling us about this facility, which he's so generously let us use for this evening. Thank you.
So just real quick, before we get to this very important individual up here, a little background. For those of you who don't know me, and about half people out here do, I started out as an engineer about 20 years ago at Music Annex, and when I left there, I was chief engineer. So I went in as an intern and left as chief engineer, and I went independent. Went off and did my own thing, and I always say I'm a real audio engineer if I'm actually earning a living and doing this. So far, so good, sort of. I also do acoustic design, so the room you're in is Open Door Church, which was built from scratch. This building was empty. There was nothing in here. So we came in about 3 years ago and built this. So I designed the room and did the acoustics in here and laid this out for live performance. Believe it or not, it approaches about 90 decibels in here with the band. And it's not loud. You can actually turn and kind of talk to each other very comfortably. So it was designed specifically with that intention, because the band, you know, they're rocking. They got this rock guitar player as a monster and the drummer, and they get pretty loud. So it's pretty cool. So the impetus behind doing this is that about 15 years ago, when I was just starting to kind of do major sessions on my own, but I was still assisting outside engineers, this guy named Fred Catero came in. And I fell in love with this guy right away. One, he was full of stories, which was awesome.
Never stops.
Never stops, yeah. And two, it was just fun because we clicked and we would talk and we would have conversations, not always about audio, just about life in general. And it was always a lot of fun. I always had a great time. I learned things. And Fred would always bring me a CD, because Fred has never been afraid to adopt the latest technologies. So, thinking back, 1952, is that when you started? Is that about right? A little later than that?
Started recording?
Yeah, started recording.
Oh, no, 1949.
49, okay. So, tape. And he would bring me CDs. He's a smart man. He copies everything he worked on. And for the last 10 years, he's been archiving it to digital. But he would always bring a CD and he'd go, take this home, listen to it, we'll talk about it next time. So I wouldn't see him for a month or sometimes longer. And he'd come back and we would talk about that, whatever it was. And they were always loads of fun, because sometimes they were things like Barbra Streisand. They were things that Fred had created on his own 50 or 60 years ago. Just various sundry things that were always a lot of fun. And what really endeared me was Fred gave me a CD with Barbra Streisand's People. She was about 18 years old at that time.
She was 19.
19. Had 3 versions of the song on there. The last version is the one we all know. The first version, now you have to remember, this was all run live. No overdubs, nothing else. So she's in a booth. There's an orchestra. You can hear the producer and the talkback talking to her. First one is just a run-through. It's really boring. It's really simple. The second one has the most amazing, phenomenal vocal from her on it. Blows away the one we all know. But the orchestration is really simple. Then you hear the producer come on and he goes, Barbara, that was great, but we want to make a couple of orchestral changes. And then the third one comes, and that's the one we all know. But that second one just makes you kind of sit back and go, whoa, wait a minute, this is just amazingly over the top. When I saw Fred like 2 months later, I said, Fred, that take 2. He goes, you did listen to that. And I'm like, yeah, I listened to everything. So.
Well, I like that you spotted it, because when I made the copy, I made it so that I could have the version that I really enjoyed. And that's the only one in existence that I know of, besides the one I gave you.
So basically, the idea behind tonight was, one of the things that for me personally as an engineer, that I think is seriously missing from the current generation of engineers, of course, which there are maybe 1 or 2 here tonight, we really need about 30 of them here, is a knowledge base that even for me is important. And that knowledge base pre-exists the current MO for recording. It pre-exists the MO for recording that I grew up with. I came into the end of the 2-inch tape era and into the beginning of digital. I was on the cusp of digital. I mean, I was a tester for Digi in 1993, 1994. So there's a whole time period before that, which you come out of. And that's why I wanted Fred to come in and do this, is that this is important. It's like many things. It's airline pilots. The old pilots have a way different MO of working. Now, it may not be concurrent with what's going on now, but that knowledge base is. And this is so true in the recording industry. So what I want to do is I'm going to break it up into 3 sections tonight. And at the end of each section, I'll take about 5, and you can ask questions so that people don't forget their questions and they're pertinent to each of the 3 sections and how I put them together. So if you could do for me is walk up to that mic and talk into it so that we record, because we are recording this for posterity, for general use, for just because. So the first section I want to cover is I want you to talk a little bit about getting started, what the industry was like, and what it was like for you up till about the time you came out here to California.
All right. Bear with me. Some people have heard this. I wanted to be a pianist. I love music, and I'm an engineer / producer by accident, engineer by intent. I wanted to be a pianist, and I practiced very, very hard as a youngster. A lot of times it's the parent who tells the kid, practice an instrument, learn to play, And in my era it was, you could be a nice pianist in Carnegie Hall. So I practiced. I wanted to do it, not because my mother asked me to do it. I just love piano because of that you can play chords, and that was the most common instrument at that time. And one day, I had been practicing about 3 years, and one day a friend of mine came by, and I had this old upright. We lived in a tenement in Spanish Harlem. That's where I grew up and I was raised. He said, "Oh, you got a piano? Mind if I play?" I said, "No, go ahead, sit down." He sat down, cracked his knuckles, the old thing, and he started doing barrel house, and he's, all over the place. And I'm watching this guy, I'm looking at him. I said, "How long you been playing?" "Oh, about 3 months." I said, 3 months? He said, "Yeah." He says, "I play bass." He says, "But I got interested in the piano about 3 months ago." And the music, the guy was incredible. And I said to myself, "Fred, you suck." I realized after 3 years, this guy, 3 months, I didn't even know how to do barrel house. Not that that's what I wanted to do, but he music, the instrument, and he became one. With me, it was like, this kind of thing. Terrible. And I thought, I'm going to be a mediocre piano player, and even if I got good to the point where I could actually play for someone and get paid, the best I could do would probably be in some hotel lobby or in a restaurant, with the tip jar. But I'd never be a really good performer. And then I said, "But I love music so much. What can I do and be around music that I love so much? Be part of it." And a little voice said, "Record those who are good. Since you know you're not good, you must know what is good. And so record those who are good." How do I do that? Well, start somewhere and learn how to record. And it was very easy in those days. I started in the mono era. Mono, what's that? Well, anyway, this funny story goes with that. My mind is very funny that way. It's always talking to me. But anyway, so I started before tape. There's a joke in the business. Fred started before tape, and tape is gone, and he's still doing it. But so that's how I got into it.